What if the way you handle what is temporary reveals everything about what you truly value forever? What if wisdom is not measured by how much you have, but by what you choose to do before it is gone? And what if the decisions you make under pressure are actually showing who you are when no one is watching? In Luke 16:1-15, Jesus tells a story that surprises many people. It is not a comforting story at first glance. It feels unusual, even uncomfortable. It is the parable of a shrewd manager, a man who is about to lose his job, and what he does next becomes the center of a powerful lesson about wisdom, urgency, and priorities. Jesus begins by describing a rich man who had a manager responsible for overseeing his household and business affairs. This manager was accused of wasting the master's possessions. There is no detail about whether the accusation is fully proven, but the situation escalates quickly. The rich man calls him in and says, "Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer." In other words, his time is over, his position is ending, his future as he knows it is collapsing. And suddenly the manager is faced with a reality many people avoid thinking about. What do I do when my current system no longer supports me? He thinks to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. This moment is important. It is a moment of self-awareness. He recognizes his limitations. He understands his situation, and instead of freezing in fear, he begins to think strategically. He realizes something crucial. He still has time, but not much, and how he uses that remaining time will determine what happens next. So he comes up with a plan. He calls in people who owe his master money. To the first one, he asks how much he owes. The man says 100 measures of olive oil. The manager tells him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly and make it 50. To another, who owes wheat, he reduces the amount as well. What is happening here is a redistribution of debt in a way that benefits others and, indirectly, builds favor for himself. When the master hears about what the manager has done, something unexpected happens. Instead of reacting with immediate punishment, he praises the manager for acting shrewdly. This is where the parable becomes confusing for many readers. Why would the master praise someone who just reduced his profits? But Jesus is not praising dishonesty. He is highlighting something deeper. The manager's ability to recognize urgency and act decisively in a limited time frame. The word shrewd here does not simply mean clever in a negative sense. It refers to practical wisdom in difficult circumstances. It is the ability to understand reality and act accordingly without delay. Jesus then shifts the lesson to the listeners. He says something powerful. The people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. In other words, people are often more strategic, focused, and intentional about temporary matters than they are about eternal ones. This is the heart of the parable. It is not about copying the manager's actions. It is about learning from his awareness. The manager understood something very clearly. Time was limited, and his current position would not last forever. That awareness shaped everything he did next. Jesus is drawing attention to a spiritual contrast. Many people live as if their current situation will last indefinitely. They plan for temporary stability, but they ignore eternal significance. They manage money, time, relationships, and opportunities with care, but often neglect deeper questions of meaning, purpose, and spiritual direction. The parable challenges that mindset. It asks, if people can be so careful with temporary resources, why are they often careless with what has eternal value? Jesus continues by saying, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. This statement is not about manipulation or exploitation. It is about perspective. It suggests that resources in this world are temporary tools, not permanent treasures. How they are used reflects priorities. The phrase, when it is gone, is important. It reminds the listener that material resources are not permanent. They will not last forever. So the question becomes, what do you do with something that will not remain? The answer Jesus implies is stewardship with wisdom, using what is temporary in a way that reflects eternal values. Then he adds another principle. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. This shifts the focus from external wealth to internal character. Trustworthiness is not measured by scale, but by consistency. If someone cannot handle small responsibilities with integrity, increasing those responsibilities does not change their character. It only reveals it more clearly. Jesus continues, "If you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches?" Here he introduces a contrast between worldly wealth and true riches. Worldly wealth refers to temporary resources. True riches point towards spiritual reality, responsibility, and deeper trust. The implication is that how a person handles temporary things is connected to how they are prepared for deeper things. Then he says something even more direct. No one can serve two masters. You will hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. This is the climax of the teaching. It is not just about management or money. It is about loyalty. It is about what ultimately controls the heart. The parable begins with a manager dealing with external pressure, but it ends with a question about internal allegiance. Where is your true devotion placed? What influences your decisions most deeply? What defines your sense of security? After hearing all this, the Pharisees, who loved money, react with ridicule. Jesus responds by exposing a deeper truth. What is highly valued among people is detestable in God's sight. This statement reveals a tension between human systems of value and divine perspective. People often measure success by accumulation, recognition, or status. But in this teaching, Jesus suggests that those measures do not always align with what truly matters. The parable does not condemn wealth itself. It challenges attachment, dependence, and misplaced trust. It calls attention to stewardship. Everything in life is temporary in one sense: resources, positions, opportunities, even seasons. The question is not whether they exist, but how they are used. The manager in the story acted quickly because he understood urgency. His awareness of limited time pushed him to act decisively. The deeper message invites reflection. What would change in life if urgency about eternal things became just as real as urgency about temporary things? If people planned with the same seriousness for meaning as they do for material stability, how different would priorities become? The parable also highlights adaptability. The manager does not remain passive when his situation changes. He adjusts, he thinks, he acts. In contrast, spiritual stagnation often comes from ignoring change or delaying response. The story challenges that delay. There is also a subtle theme of foresight. The manager looks ahead, not just at his present crisis, but at what comes after. He prepares for a future beyond his current role. That is a key principle Jesus is pointing to. Wisdom involves thinking beyond immediate circumstances. But the final emphasis returns to the heart. All external actions eventually reflect internal values. Whether someone is trustworthy, whether they serve God or money, whether they live with urgency or indifference, these are not just behaviors. They are expressions of priority. The parable ends as a mirror. It does not ask the listener to admire the manager. It asks the listener to examine themselves. How are you using what you have now? What would your decisions look like if you fully understood that time is limited and opportunity is meaningful? What truly holds your attention when no one is watching? Because in the end, wisdom is not just about managing resources. It is about recognizing what matters most before it is too late to respond. And that is the quiet challenge at the center of this story. Thank you for watching this video. If this message gave you a new perspective, take a moment to like the video, follow the channel, and share it with someone who needs to reflect on what truly matters today.